What you're about to see is a fully productive fruit orchard growing on a patio. In pots. No land. No in-ground planting. Just containers, the right trees, and one strategic timing decision that most gardeners never make. That decision is planting in August. And by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why August is the window that separates gardeners who get fruit from gardeners who get frustration. Here's what surprised me most when I went through the research on this topic. The number 2 tree on this list, a fig, actually produces more fruit when its roots are confined in a pot than it ever would in open ground. Root restriction isn't a compromise for this tree. It's the trigger that forces it into heavy fruit production. That's not a gardening tip. That's plant biology working in your favor. One tree on this list can be stored in your garage through winter with 0 light, 0 water, and 0 care, and come back producing fruit the following summer. And one of them, the last one, is the only true dwarf version of a fruit that most Americans buy for a few dollars each at the grocery store. Growing your own changes that equation permanently. We're covering all 10 today. Let's build your container orchard. Before we get into the trees, you need to understand why August specifically. Because most gardeners think of spring as planting season and assume late summer is too late to start anything. That thinking costs them 6 months of establishment time. Here's what's actually happening in August that makes it strategically valuable for container fruit trees. Soil temperatures in August, even inside containers, are running at their annual peak. For most of the country, substrate temperatures inside a pot in full sun are sitting above 75 degrees Fahrenheit. That heat directly stimulates cell division inside the root system. Roots are actively growing, branching, and extending into fresh potting media. Mycorrhizal fungi, the beneficial soil organisms that dramatically increase a tree's nutrient absorption efficiency, establish most rapidly in warm soil. So when you plant a container fruit tree in August, you're giving it 6 to 8 weeks of aggressive root growth before autumn temperatures begin to cool. By the time winter arrives, that tree has a fully anchored root system and stored carbohydrate reserves in its woody structure. Come spring, it doesn't start from zero. It wakes up from a position of strength and breaks into bloom and leaf growth weeks ahead of a tree planted the following spring. For tropical and subtropical trees like citrus, mango, and avocado, August planting provides something even more critical, an acclimation period under maximum daylight hours before those trees need to transition indoors for winter in cooler zones. A tree that's been in its container since August is established. A tree planted in October and immediately moved inside is in shock. Now, one thing before we get to the trees. Container gardening has grown enormously in popularity over the past few years, and pots and raised planters have become one of the most common ways Americans grow their own food today. This isn't a niche hobby anymore. This is mainstream food production happening on balconies, decks, patios, and small residential plots across the country. And the 10 trees we're about to cover are the ones built for exactly that environment. Let's start with number 1. Tree number 1, the improved Meyer lemon. This tree earned the top position on this list for one primary reason. It is the most adaptable container fruit tree available to American gardeners. It moves seamlessly between a sunny outdoor deck in summer and a south-facing indoor window in winter. It blooms intermittently year-round. It's self-fertile, and it produces 20 to 50 full-sized lemons per year from a container. Here's the detail most people don't know about what makes this tree work in a pot specifically. The improved Meyer lemon you want is grafted onto a rootstock called flying dragon. The botanical name is Poncirus trifoliata var. Monstruosa. This dwarfing rootstock physically constrains the tree's vigor, keeping it at 4 to 6 feet with a 3 to 4 foot canopy spread. But, and this is the key, it doesn't reduce fruit size. The lemons produced on a flying dragon grafted tree are identical in size and flavor to those from a full-size tree. The rootstock shrinks the tree, not the fruit. August planting is particularly advantageous for citrus. Elevated soil temperatures heat the container substrate, stimulating rapid cell division in the root system. This root development allows the tree to anchor securely and absorb key micronutrients before daylight hours start decreasing in autumn. Container requirements: 15 to 18 gallons minimum, 16 to 20-inch pot diameter. Soil mix: this is non-negotiable for citrus. You need a highly porous, well-aerated substrate. The formula that works: 50% screened pine bark fines, 30% coarse perlite, 20% composted organic matter. Standard potting soil compacts in containers and causes root rot. The bark and perlite mix prevents both. Sun: 6 to 8 hours of direct sunlight daily. No compromise here. Watering: water deeply, then allow the top 2 inches of soil to dry completely before watering again. Shallow, frequent watering is one of the most common mistakes with container citrus. It keeps moisture at the surface and encourages weak, shallow roots. Fertilizer: high nitrogen organic citrus fertilizer with NPK around 526, plus iron, zinc, and manganese. Top dress in early spring. Supplement in midsummer with potassium sulfate to support fruit expansion and rind development. The diagnostic you need to know: if your Meyer lemon develops interveinal chlorosis, yellow leaves with green veins, that's iron or manganese deficiency caused by cold, wet media, or elevated pH. It's not a death sentence. It's a signal to check your soil pH and drainage. Sudden leaf drop points to water stress, root rot, or temperature shock during an indoor transition. Zone strategy: in zones 9 through 11, this tree stays outdoors year-round. In zones 4 through 8, move it indoors once night temperatures fall below 45 degrees Fahrenheit. A bright south-facing window or grow lights will carry it through winter. One critical maintenance task before it comes inside: inspect the undersides of leaves for scale insects, mealybugs, and spider mites. Apply insecticidal soap or neem oil before the tree enters your home. Harvest season runs November through March for the main crop, with intermittent blooming and fruiting year-round. Tree number 2, the dwarf fig. Standard fig trees are aggressive. Left in open ground, they reach 20 feet. They pour energy into vegetative growth, branches, leaves, canopy expansion. Fruit production is secondary when the tree has unlimited root space. Confine the roots in a container, and the entire metabolic priority of the tree shifts. Root restriction suppresses rampant branch growth and concentrates the plant's energy toward fruit production. The tree responds to confinement by fruiting heavily and early. Dwarf fig cultivars like Little Miss Figgy and Fignominal frequently set fruit while still in their nursery pots, before they've even been planted in a permanent container. That's not a compromise. That's the mechanism working exactly as it should. Fignominal stays ultra-compact at 2 to 3 feet. Little Miss Figgy runs 3 to 5 feet. Both produce 30 to 70 sweet figs per plant annually across 2 crop windows, a breba crop in early summer and a primary crop running August through October. Container: 15 to 20 gallons for standard dwarfs, 10 to 15 gallons for ultra-compact selections. Soil mix: 40% organic compost, 40% high-grade potting soil, 20% coarse perlite. Avoid excessive nitrogen. It drives lush foliage at the expense of fruit maturation and causes premature fruit drop. August advantage: warm August soil allows root systems to spread throughout fresh substrate while temperatures remain above 70 degrees Fahrenheit. This late summer root establishment ensures the tree stores adequate carbohydrates in its thick woody branches before autumn leaf drop, which is the energy reserve it draws on for the following season's fruit. Winter storage: this is remarkable. In zones 3 through 6, once fall frosts trigger dormancy and the leaves drop, move the pot to an unheated garage, shed, or basement kept between 25 and 45 degrees Fahrenheit. Dormant figs require no light during winter storage. 0 light, 0 water, 0 care. Roll it in, close the door, come back in spring. Pruning: in late winter while dormant, cut back older branches by 1/3. This spurs fresh fruiting wood for the coming season. Pest watch: protect ripening figs from birds and yellow jackets using protective mesh netting. If you don't cover them, they will find the fruit before you do, every time. Healthy plants show broad, deeply lobed green leaves. Figs and lemons are the 2 easiest, highest yield container fruit trees available. But the next crop on this list delivers something neither of them can: full-size stone fruit. The kind you'd buy at a farmer's market for a premium price. Growing on a patio, in a pot, without any grafting trickery, just pure genetics. Tree number 3, the dwarf peach. Most dwarf fruit trees are made small by grafting them onto a dwarfing rootstock. The Bonanza peach and Southern Belle peach are different. These are genetic dwarfs, natural mutations selected for their short internodes between leaf nodes. The compact structure isn't engineered. It's in the DNA. What that means practically, these trees top out at 4 to 6 feet with a 4 to 5 foot spread, produce dense, sturdy branching from the base, and bear full-sized, full-flavored peaches, 20 to 40 per mature tree annually, without the complications of rootstock management. Container, 20 to 25 gallons. This is a larger container than most people expect for a 4-foot tree, but peaches develop a moderately spreading root system that needs volume to sustain heavy fruit crops. Soil mix, 40% pine bark fines, 30% organic compost, 30% perlite. Ensure clear drainage holes. Peach roots are sensitive to waterlogging. Zone requirement, zones 5 through 9. Critical detail, dwarf peaches need 400 to 600 hours of winter temperatures below 45 degrees Fahrenheit, called chill hours, to break dormancy properly and bloom in spring. Without sufficient chill hours, the tree won't set fruit. In the deep south below zone 7, select low-chill varieties like Southern Belle, specifically bred for warmer winter climates. The pruning practice that determines your yield. In spring, when young peaches reach marble size, thin them aggressively to 4 to 6 inches apart along each branch. This sounds brutal. Most gardeners can't bring themselves to remove developing fruit. But unthinned branches snap under crop weight, and the remaining peaches are small and low quality. Thinned branches produce large, sweet, high-quality fruit. This single practice separates successful peach growers from disappointed ones. Disease management. Apply a copper fungicide spray in late winter before bud swell to prevent peach leaf curl from infecting emerging buds. This is a single annual application that prevents one of the most destructive diseases in peach cultivation. Skip it and you'll see reddish, puckered, thickened leaves all season. Winter root protection. Container roots are significantly more vulnerable to freeze damage than in-ground roots. In zones 5 and 6, wrap containers in straw and burlap once the tree goes dormant, or move them into an unheated garage. Harvest runs July through August depending on cultivar and location. Fresh peaches from a patio container, the same week they ripen. Tree number 4, the dwarf and columnar apple. Apple trees seem like the last thing you'd grow in a pot. They're orchard trees. They need space. They need land. Columnar apples prove that assumption wrong in the most dramatic way possible. Columnar apple varieties, selections like Blushing Sensation, Tasty Red, and Tangy Green, grow as narrow vertical spires. Their spread is approximately 2 feet. They produce fruit on short spurs borne directly along the central trunk rather than on spreading lateral branches. In a container, a columnar apple occupies roughly the same footprint as a large umbrella stand and produces 20 to 40 full-sized apples per year. For narrow balcony corners, urban patios, and tight deck spaces, nothing on this list matches the space efficiency of a columnar apple. The alternative approach is branching dwarf apples grafted onto extreme dwarfing rootstocks, M27 or B9. These stay at 4 to 6 feet with a 4-foot spread and produce a more traditional branching structure in a slightly larger container. Container, 20 to 25 gallons for both types. Zone requirement, zones 4 through 8. Apples need 500 to 1,000 chill hours depending on variety. They require a genuine winter. This is not a tree for zone 9 and warmer. Critical pollination requirement. Most apple varieties are not self-fertile. You need 2 distinct apple varieties blooming at the same time nearby, or a flowering crabapple within range, for cross-pollination and fruit set. Plant 2 compatible columnar varieties in separate containers side by side. A nearby flowering crabapple also works. Without cross-pollination, you get flowers and no fruit. Soil management. Dwarfing apple rootstocks like M27 produce shallow, fibrous root systems that are sensitive to drought stress. Keep media consistently moist during summer fruit swell. These roots will signal stress immediately. Pale green or yellowing foliage indicates root restriction or nitrogen deficiency. Disease selection strategy. Choose scab-resistant varieties like Liberty or Tasty Red to dramatically reduce maintenance requirements. Apple scab, visible as olive green or black velvety spots on leaves, is the primary disease challenge for container apples. Resistant varieties sidestep it entirely. Harvest. late summer to mid-autumn, August through October depending on cultivar. Apples, peaches, lemons, figs. Every tree so far has required serious container volume and significant management attention. The next tree breaks that pattern completely. It's compact, ornamental, and solves a problem that defeats most in-ground gardeners before they even get started. And it grows in a pot that fits on an apartment windowsill. Tree number 5, the dwarf blueberry. Here's why most in-ground blueberry plantings fail, and why container growing solves the problem permanently. Blueberries require strictly acidic soil, pH 4.5 to 5.5. That range is more acidic than almost every native garden soil across the United States. When native soil pH climbs above 5.5, the plant's ability to absorb iron shuts down. The result is iron chlorosis, bright yellow leaves with dark green veins, and a plant that slowly declines regardless of how much you water or fertilize it. In a container, you custom blend the growing media from scratch. You set the pH exactly where the plant needs it, and it stays there because the container isolates the root zone from alkaline native soil and alkaline irrigation water. That's the entire blueberry case for containers. Total pH control. In the ground, you're fighting your native soil chemistry for the life of the planting. In a container, you want varieties: Sunshine Blue for zones 7 through 10, Top Hat for zones 3 through 8, Peach Sorbet for zones 5 through 10. All three are compact, ornamental, and productive. Container, start in 7 to 10 gallons. Move up to 15 to 20 gallons at maturity. Mature size is 2 to 3 feet height and spread, genuinely compact. Soil formula: 50% peat moss or coconut coir, 40% milled pine bark fines, 10% coarse perlite. 0 limestone. 0 standard potting soil containing lime. These ingredients will immediately raise pH above the blueberry's tolerance range. Irrigation: use collected rainwater or filtered water if your municipal tap water is hard or alkaline. Hard tap water gradually raises container pH over a growing season and reverses everything you achieved with the soil blend. Fertilizer: acidifying organic fertilizers, cottonseed meal, or organic holly feeds like Espoma Hollytone. Avoid nitrate forms of nitrogen and potassium chloride, which raise pH. Annual yield: 3 to 8 pounds of fresh berries per mature bush. Harvest June through August. Bird protection, non-negotiable. Cover ripening bushes with canopy netting or lose the entire crop. Tree number 6, the dwarf ever-bearing mulberry. If you asked most American gardeners to name a dwarf mulberry variety, they'd go silent. Mulberry trees in the American cultural imagination are giant, 30 to 40-foot trees that drop purple berries all over sidewalks and driveways. Dwarf everbearing and mojo berry are something completely different. These are genetic dwarf selections that form bushy, multi-stemmed plants topping out at 3 to 6 feet in containers. And they have a fruiting habit unlike anything else on this list. They set berries continuously along new green growth throughout spring, summer, and autumn. Not one harvest window. Continuous production during every warm month. Hundreds of sweet, dark purple berries per plant throughout the growing season. And here's the technique that multiplies that production even further: tip pruning. Pinch or cut the top 2 inches of actively growing green shoots throughout summer. This stops terminal elongation and forces lateral buds to break, setting new flowers and berries within weeks. Every time you tip prune, you're creating new fruiting points. It's the most productive pruning technique in container fruit growing, simple, fast, and immediate in its results. August advantage: late summer heat drives rapid root growth and shoot extension in mulberries immediately after planting. August planted container mulberries frequently begin setting fruit within the same season. Container, 15 to 20 gallons. Minimum. Soil mix: 40% organic compost, 40% potting soil, 20% coarse perlite. Keep consistently moist during active fruit flushes. Fertilizer: balanced organic liquid or granular fertilizer applied monthly from spring through midsummer to sustain continuous berry set. Resilience: dwarf mulberries are generally disease-free and pest-resistant. The only serious threat is birds. They will locate ripening berries as they transition from red to deep purple and strip the plant before you harvest. Lightweight netting is your solution. Zone: Outdoors year-round in zones 5 through 10. Hardy to 0 degrees Fahrenheit. In zones 5 and 6, protect container root systems during severe winter cold by burying the pot in a garden bed or placing it in an unheated garage. Leaf yellowing signals root-bound conditions or nitrogen depletion, 2 easy fixes in a container system. Quick question before we move on. Which of these first 6 trees are you most excited to add to your patio? Drop it in the comments. I read every one of them. Now, we move into trees that offer something different: drought tolerance, ornamental beauty, and a harvest timing that extends your container orchard into autumn and beyond. The next tree thrives in conditions that would stress most of the trees we've already covered. And it does it while producing one of the most nutritionally complex fruits in the world. Tree number 7, the dwarf pomegranate. August is brutal for most container plants. Root zones overheat in dark pots. Water demand spikes. Stress accumulates. The dwarf pomegranate responds to August heat the way a professional athlete responds to training intensity. It thrives. Native to hot, arid Mediterranean climates. Punica granadum var. Nana is naturally adapted to intense solar radiation and dry soil conditions. August container planting plays directly into its evolutionary strengths. It uses late summer ambient heat to build a dense root network before winter arrives, establishing faster in August conditions than any cooler season planting window would allow. Mature size, 3 to 4 feet height and spread. Naturally compact without requiring dwarfing rootstocks. This is the plant's innate growth form. Container, 12 to 15 gallons. One of the smaller container requirements on this list. Soil mix, 40% commercial potting soil, 30% coarse sand or pumice, 30% compost. Fast drainage is essential. Pomegranates evolved in gritty, rapidly draining soils. Watering, deep irrigation, allowing the top 2 inches of media to dry between waterings. Highly drought tolerant once established. Yield, 15 to 30 small to medium pomegranates per mature plant. Harvest runs September through November. The one challenge to manage: fruit splitting during autumn maturation. Pomegranate skins crack open when the fruit swells rapidly after a period of drought followed by heavy watering. The solution is simple: maintain consistent soil moisture as fruits swell. Avoid the extreme wet-dry cycle, and the skins stay intact. Ornamental value: bright orange-red trumpet-shaped flowers appear before the fruit develops. In a container, a flowering pomegranate is genuinely one of the most visually striking patio plants available, edible and ornamental simultaneously. Zone: outdoors year-round in zones 7 through 11. In zones 4 through 6, move dormant container plants into an unheated basement or garage when temperatures drop below 20 degrees Fahrenheit. Tree number 8, the dwarf pear. Pears are the most patient investment on this list. They take 2 to 3 years to produce their first harvest. They need a second pollinator variety. And they carry susceptibility to fire blight, one of the most destructive bacterial diseases in fruit tree cultivation. So why are they on this list? Because a mature dwarf pear in a container, grafted onto OHXF 333 or quince C dwarfing rootstock, produces 15 to 30 full-sized pears annually from a 5 to 7 foot tree. And varieties like Seckel, the sugar pear, produce fruit with a sweetness and complexity that most commercially grown pears never approach. The investment in patience pays a real dividend in quality. Container, 22 to 25 gallons. The largest container requirement outside of avocado on this list. Pear root systems are sturdy and deep-growing. They need volume. Soil mix: 50% high-grade potting substrate, 30% organic compost, 20% coarse perlite. Keep medium moisture retentive but well-drained. Critical heat management detail: pear root systems are sensitive to high temperatures when housed in dark plastic pots exposed to direct August sun. Shade the container base, wrap dark pots in burlap, or use a light-colored container to keep root zones from overheating during establishment. This is especially important for August planting. Fire blight management: apply a balanced, low-nitrogen organic fertilizer in spring. Excess nitrogen drives soft vegetative shoot growth that is highly susceptible to fire blight. If infection appears, look for blackened shoots bending into a shepherd's crook shape. Prune out infected branches 6 inches below visible damage using disinfected tools. Sterilize shears between every cut. Pollination. Most pear varieties require cross-pollination. Plant 2 bloom-compatible varieties, Seckle and Moonglow, work well together. Moonglow is partially self-fertile, making it the more forgiving choice if you're limited to a single tree. Harvest. Late summer through autumn, August through October. Tree number 9, the dwarf mango. Pickering and Coggeshall are genetic dwarf mangoes, not grafted onto dwarfing rootstock, but naturally compact through their own genetics. Pickering in particular is notable for setting fruit clusters on young, compact trees in 20-gallon pots. Container trials by commercial nurseries confirm that fruit size from container-grown pickering is equal to fruit produced on in-ground trees, despite standard mango trees reaching 30 feet in the wild. Yield: 10 to 25 sweet mangoes per mature container tree. From a patio. August advantage. Mangoes thrive under high ambient heat. August planting provides substrate temperatures above 75 degrees Fahrenheit that drive rapid root establishment and shoot growth. This is one tree where August's intensity is a pure advantage rather than a management challenge. Container, 20 to 25 gallons. Soil mix, 40% pine bark fines, 30% organic compost, 20% coarse perlite, 10% worm castings. Thorough drainage is non-negotiable. Mango roots are oxygen sensitive. Zone. Outdoors year-round in zones 9B through 11. In zones 4 through 9A, move containers indoors to a sunroom, heated greenhouse, or sunny window before temperatures drop below 50 degrees Fahrenheit. This is a cold-sensitive tree. Any exposure below 30 degrees Fahrenheit causes damage. Pruning technique that multiplies future yield. After harvesting, tip prune branch ends by removing terminal growth buds. This forces 2 or 3 lateral shoots to emerge from each pruned point, doubling or tripling the number of bloom sites for the following year. Every post-harvest tip prune is an investment in next year's fruit count. Disease watch. Monitor for anthracnose, black spots on leaves, or blighted bloom panicles. Avoid overhead irrigation to keep canopy foliage dry, which is the primary prevention strategy. New shoot flushes on mango emerge reddish-purple before maturing to green. This is healthy, not a deficiency. Enjoy it. It's one of the most visually distinctive features of a thriving container mango. 9 trees in. We've covered citrus, stone fruit, berries, tropical exotics, Mediterranean shrubs. The last tree on this list is the most challenging to grow and the most rewarding when you get it right. It produces fruit that sells for extraordinary prices at specialty grocery stores. It's the only true dwarf version of its species, and everything about how you manage it runs counter to standard container gardening instincts. Tree number 10, the dwarf avocado. Wurtz, sold commercially as Little Cato, is the only true dwarf avocado cultivar widely available to American home gardeners. Standard avocado trees reach 30 to 40 feet. Wurtz maintains a compact 6 to 10 feet in containers and produces full-sized, high-quality fruit with dark green skin. Yield: 15 to 30 full-sized avocados per mature container tree. Harvest season runs May through September. Here's the management reality that makes avocado the most challenging tree on this list and why understanding the root biology is the key to success. Avocado roots are shallow and exceptionally oxygen-hungry. They evolved in fast-draining, highly aerated tropical soils. Saturated soil, even for 24 to 48 hours, creates the anaerobic conditions that allow root rot pathogens to colonize and destroy the root system. This is the #1 cause of avocado failure in containers. Not cold, not drought, overwatering. The soil formula that prevents this: 40% coarse pine bark fines, 40% organic compost, 20% coarse perlite or pumice. This blend provides the drainage and aeration that avocado roots require. Standard potting soil without significant amendment will compact and retain too much moisture. Watering protocol: water deeply only when the top 3 inches of media are dry. Ensure drainage holes are completely clear. Never, under any circumstances, allow the container to sit in standing saucer water. Elevate pots on pot feet or bricks to keep drainage holes above standing water. Pollination: Wurtz is self-fertile, combining both A and B flower types that open at overlapping times. You don't need a second tree. though a second tree will increase fruit set. Sunburn protection. Exposed green trunk bark on young avocado trees is susceptible to sunscald in August's intense direct sun. Apply a 50-50 mixture of interior white latex paint and water to exposed lower trunk sections to reflect heat. This is standard practice in avocado orchards and works equally well on container specimens. Zone: outdoors year-round in zones 9 through 11. In zones 4 through 8, move containers indoors to a bright, frost-free location before temperatures approach 35 to 40 degrees Fahrenheit. Cold damage begins at 28 to 30 degrees Fahrenheit. Pruning. Pinch growth tips in early spring to induce branching and maintain a compact, balanced canopy. Left unpruned, avocados tend toward vertical growth that becomes difficult to manage in a container environment. This is the high-difficulty, high-reward tree. Get the drainage right, manage the watering carefully, and you grow fruit most Americans pay premium grocery store prices for. Before we talk about setup logistics, let's address 4 myths and mistakes that kill container fruit trees, because having the right tree in the wrong setup produces the wrong result. Myth 1. Fruit trees can't produce well in containers. University extension field trials prove the opposite. Genetic dwarf peaches, columnar apples on M27 rootstock, dwarf citrus on flying dragon, and dwarf mangoes in 20-gallon pots all yielded fruit equal in size and quality to in-ground counterparts over multi-year trial periods. The tree doesn't know it's in a pot. It knows whether its root zone is aerated, moist, and nutritionally supported. Myth 2. Bigger pot equals better results. This one surprises most people. Excess media volume in oversized pots stays saturated longer after irrigation. That prolonged saturation creates anaerobic soil conditions that invite root rot pathogens. Step pot sizes up incrementally as the tree grows. Don't skip from a 5-gallon nursery container directly into a 30-gallon pot. Myth 3. Dwarf trees stay small without pruning. Dwarf trees require structural shaping, root maintenance, and regular fruit thinning. Myth 4. Container trees need less fertilizer. The opposite is true. Nutrients leach rapidly through container drainage holes during regular irrigation. Container fruit trees require more frequent feeding than in-ground trees, not less. Organic slow-release fertilizers and regular liquid feeds are both necessary components of a container orchard maintenance program. 3 practices keep container orchards productive long-term. First, substrate aeration. Use a porous, bark-based potting mix. 50% screened pine bark fines, 30% coarse perlite or pumice, 20% composted hardwood bark or coconut core. Never standard topsoil or native garden soil. Clay and silt compact in containers, deprive roots of oxygen, and cause root rot within a single growing season. Second, root maintenance. Every 2 to 3 years during winter or early spring dormancy, slide the root ball out of the pot. Slice away 1 to 2 inches off the outer root mat around the sides and bottom using disinfected shears. Tease circling roots outward. Repot into the same container with fresh bark-based potting mix, positioning the root crown level with the soil surface. This practice extends the productive life of container fruit trees indefinitely. Third, salt flushing. Fertilizer salts accumulate in container media over time and burn fine root tips. Every midsummer, apply clean water until 10 to 20% drains freely from the bottom drainage holes. This flushes excess soluble salts and resets the root zone chemistry. Zone management for container fruit trees operates on one critical principle. Container roots lose approximately 2 hardiness zones of cold tolerance compared to in-ground ratings. A tree rated hardy to zone 5 in the ground may suffer root damage at zone 7 temperatures when its roots are exposed on all sides in a pot. Zones 3 through 5, cold northern and Midwest. Move pots to an unheated garage or shed once dormancy is reached. Target holding temperatures between 25 and 35 degrees Fahrenheit for cold hardy deciduous trees. This protects root systems from sub-zero ambient air temperatures while maintaining the dormancy those trees require. Zones 6 and 7, moderate transition zone. Wrap containers in burlap and mulch during severe cold events, or move to a sheltered space. Provide afternoon shade for dark-colored pots during August heat to prevent substrate temperatures from reaching root-damaging levels above 105 degrees Fahrenheit. Zones 8 and 9, warm southern and sunbelt. Minimal winter shelter required for most deciduous trees. Protect citrus, mango, and avocado during freeze warnings. Use shade cloth during extreme summer heat waves and water deeply. Evapotranspiration rates are high in southern container environments. Zones 10 and 11, subtropical and tropical, year-round outdoor growing season. No winter protection needed for any tree on this list. Focus summer management on consistent irrigation and mulching soil surfaces to reduce moisture evaporation. A quick note on container material. Fabric grow bags promote root aeration through air pruning and cool root zones through evaporative drying. Excellent for hot southern climates in August, though they need more frequent watering than solid containers. Food-grade resin and molded plastic are lightweight, durable, and moisture-retentive, but dark plastic pots in direct August sun can reach root-damaging temperatures above 105 degrees Fahrenheit, so use light colors or wrap dark pots in burlap during summer. Glazed ceramic and wood barrels offer excellent thermal insulation and ballast weight against wind tipping. Just make sure they have multiple drainage holes rather than a single small drain. 2 practical tips from experienced container orchardists that change everything. Wheeled caddies. A 20-gallon container filled with wet media weighs upward of 140 pounds. Place pots on heavy-duty, multi-caster wheeled caddies before filling. This makes repositioning for sun exposure, shade protection, or winter shelter manageable by a single person. Saucer elevation. Never let containers sit directly in stagnant runoff water inside saucers. Use pot risers, feet, or bricks to elevate drainage holes above standing water. This single practice prevents root saturation and the rot that follows. 10 trees. 1 strategic planting window. Let me give you the framework that ties everything together. The improved Meyer lemon and dwarf fig are your starting point. Highest ease of growth, exceptional container reliability, self-fertile, and productive in their first season. Build your container orchard around these 2 and add from there. Dwarf peach and columnar apple deliver full-size stone fruit and palm fruit in the most space-efficient structures available to home growers. Genetic dwarfing in the peach and columnar architecture in the apple solve the size problem permanently. Dwarf blueberry solves a soil chemistry problem that defeats most in-ground gardeners by putting total pH control in your hands. Dwarf mulberry delivers continuous production all season through a single management technique, tip pruning, that most gardeners have never used. Dwarf pomegranate thrives in August conditions that stress every other tree on this list, producing ornamental beauty and nutritional complexity simultaneously. Dwarf pear rewards patience with premium fruit quality from one of the most reliable dwarfing rootstock systems available. Dwarf mango and dwarf avocado are the premium tropical entries, challenging to manage outside their native zones, exceptionally rewarding when the soil, drainage, and temperature requirements are met precisely. And August is the window that makes all of it work. Warm soil temperatures driving root establishment, maximum daylight hours supporting tropical acclimation, and a 6 to 8 week head start before winter arrives. But here's what this video didn't cover, and it's the detail that determines whether these trees produce fruit for 1 season or for 10 years. The soil mix, the exact ratios, the drainage layer, the fertilizer program timed to each growth stage, the root pruning technique that keeps a container fruit tree productive indefinitely instead of root-bound and declining by year 3. Because the right tree in the wrong substrate, with the wrong fertilizer timing and no root maintenance plan, still fails. The container setup is the foundation, and the foundation has to be right from day 1. That's exactly what the next video covers. The complete container orchard setup guide, substrate formula by formula, tree by tree, from first planting through year 5 maintenance. If you're serious about building a container orchard that produces for years, that video is your next step.